Marcela Sanchez. United Nations say aid groups have collected humanitarian aid carried by about 90 trucks out of the nearly 200 that have entered Gaza. The shipments included medicine, wheat flour, and nutrition supplies. Aid groups faced significant challenges distributing the aid because of insecurity, the risk of looting, and coordination issues with Israeli authorities. Two Israeli embassy employees based in Washington, D.C. were shot and killed Wednesday evening. The victims, a man and a woman, were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum when a man approached the group of 4 people and opened fire. The suspect has been identified as Elias Rodriguez, a 30-year-old from Chicago. Rodriguez yelled, "Free, free Palestine," after he was arrested inside the museum. At a news conference, Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Yechiel Leiter, says the 2 people killed were about to be engaged.
The young man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem. They were a beautiful couple who came to enjoy an evening in Washington's Cultural Center.
That's audio from WJLA. Republicans have made several late changes to their tax cut and immigration bill. Revisions include the striking of sections that authorize the sale of hundreds of thousands of acres of public lands, acceleration of work requirements for some Medicaid participants, and a higher state and local tax deduction. The Pentagon says Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has accepted a gifted Boeing 747 from Qatar for President Trump to use as Air Force One. Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell says the department will work to ensure proper security measures on the aircraft to make it safe for use. Trump has defended the gift as a way to save tax dollars. Others have raised concerns about the aircraft being a violation of the Constitution's prohibition on foreign gifts. This is AP News. AP correspondent Raphael Wober reports on the latest situation in North Korea.
Surprising news from North Korea, a failure to launch a new Navy ship, a giant destroyer said to be 5,000 tons, and with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on the spot. It's rare that North Korea acknowledges failure in its state media reports. Why did it do it this time? Well, North Korea is trying to modernize its military. There have been lots of reports from North Korean state media about Army, Air Force, Special Forces, as well as Navy, submarines, and all these kinds of things which are important for North Korea to project its force. Why this time North Korea has come out with a report of failure is unclear, at a time when relations with its neighbor South Korea and also the US are bad.
I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high into the upper 50s. Winds out of the northeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. And then for tonight, partly cloudy, although near 44. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 64 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high around 65. Sunday, sunny, high of 64. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 48.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Good Thursday morning, progressives, and welcome to the May 22nd, 2025 edition of Choose Views. Catch us on our Credo mobile phone and text line. That is 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio. YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Catch me on Substack. And catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, short versions and long versions, the long interviews and the smaller segments. There you go. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Our Out Chicago folks. And, of course, our other shows and interviews. You can check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform because there's lots of good things and good stuff there. And speaking of checking things out, check this out, progressives.
Chicago is so big and so dominant in its influence in its part of the country that the whole area around Chicago for miles and miles is called Chicagoland. I've always loved that. You know, nobody talks about New York land or San Francisco land, right? For all of the swagger of those American cities, only Chicago has enough swagger that its whole region is Chicagoland. It's a very Chicago designation. The city of Aurora, Illinois is, I think fair to say, sort of on the edge of Chicagoland. It's about 30 miles from downtown Chicago. And this weekend, there were 15,000 people who signed up to join hands, to literally line up next to each other to cover that whole 30-mile distance between Chicago and Aurora, Illinois, all to protest President Donald Trump and the actions of the Trump administration. 15,000 people in a single line over 30 miles. They called it Hands Across Chicagoland. All to protest President Donald Trump and the actions of the Trump administration. 15,000 people in a single...
So, yeah, Rachel Maddow. Sorry about that, guys. I wasn't paying attention to Henry. Yeah, Rachel really gave us a great, I guess you could say, shout out about Chicago and Chicagoland. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I wanted to just highlight the fact that we didn't get a chance to talk that much about the Hands Across Chicago or Hands Across Aurora, Hands Across event that took place this weekend. It was a big deal. And the fact that it made national news like that, and I am proud to say that, you know, we had people that were talking about it last week and then, of course, over the weekend and the beginning of this week. But that just goes to the point of what we're doing here in Chicago, what we're trying to do here in the state of Illinois and be representative of what's happening in the country, representative of how we fight back, I should say, to what's happening in the country. And, of course, we have this guy. His name is Brandon Johnson, and he's the mayor of the city of Chicago. And he had something to say about standing up for the city and for the region and for the country.
You've had your back and forths with the president over the months, and I'm wondering if you could have forecasted this to be a focal point of his Department of Justice and what your initial reaction was to the investigation.
Well, I'm not surprised, right? I mean, this administration has, obviously has demonstrated a great deal of animus and disdain towards what is sensible about our country, and that's the diversity of our country. And I'm very proud of the fact that we have one of the most, if not the most diverse administration in the history of Chicago. What's clear is that not only does the Trump administration not respect the rule of law or what's sensible about our society, you would be hard-pressed to find qualified individuals who are in his administration. As my administration reflects the country, reflects the city, his administration reflects the country club. And that is the biggest difference between what we're doing in Chicago and what is coming from the federal government. We're going to remain firm and steadfast in our commitment to ensure that the incredible diverse talent that we have within our administration that continues to lead us towards the safest, most affordable big city in America, we're not going to shy away or apologize for who we are.
Yeah, and that's who we are. Today we'll be talking with, our guests are going to be people who are talking about fighting and how Dems can fight better and differently. And two voices that Looking forward to you guys hearing our first guest or interview that we had with Rachel Bitecofer, political strategist, will be in the 7 o'clock hour. And then at 7:30 hour, we will have Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow. So I'm excited about both of the segments that we're going to have today. Rachel and I were chopping it up and laughing and acting silly. But the point that you'll see in her interview is about the people who are fighting have to keep fighting hard, and Dems fighting a little bit differently. And I'm sure Senator McMorrow will talk about that as well as one of the new young voices. So looking forward to both of those segments in the 7 and the 7:30 hour. And I'll be taking your calls, of course, up until that point and maybe even a little bit after. But give us a shout and your thoughts about Hands Across Chicago. Give us a shout. We'll talk about the mayor and what the mayor is leading us to do. I am unapologetically in the corner of the fighters that are fighting. And you can say a lot of things about, this is something that I was talking with one of our executive producers yesterday about. We miss an opportunity if we only bash Democrats. We spend, and Henry and I have talked about this. Henry's a young cat and he gets it. He's a young voice, but he also understands that our fight is not against each other. Our fight is with the folks that are causing the most harm. And that's why I say every day, as best I can, we have to push our elected officials to do a better job. We don't need to kick them to the curb unless they're doing a dirt poor job and then somebody has to replace them. I get that. But to spend our time running around just, constantly going after Democrats is a waste of energy. And it's actually what the Republican Party wants us to do. They don't want the Brandon Johnsons to step up. They don't want the Senator Chris Murphys to stand up. They don't want the AOCs to stand up. Because the minute that they do, they go after their character. They never really go after their policy. You notice that, Henry? They go after their character. That's the first, and that's something that Rachel and I will talk a little bit about. They go after the character of the person, but they don't go after necessarily the policies. And that just goes to show that they don't have a policy that would replace the policy ideas that this Democratic elected official is putting forward. But they'll they'll try to go after something about their family or their children or something that they did. There's an interview during one of the testimonies, hearings rather. One of the snarky members of the Trump administration tried to say that Senator Chris Van Hollen had a margarita with Mr. Garcia, which was a flat-out lie, and tried to make that statement. So he went after something about the characters, and then all the things that they do that allow them to fight, not about policy, but to fight about their privilege to do whatever they want to do. So I want our team to fight in a way that fights against them, not against us. How many times do you watch a sporting event? You may be ticked off at one of your team members. We'll use football or basketball or baseball as the three big, and even soccer. And I shouldn't say even soccer. I apologize for that, including soccer. So for those who go, wait a minute, Chew, don't forget any of the team sports. We could take any of the team sports. You don't see the team if something breaks out, Henry, and there's a scuffle. You don't see players from the same team fighting against each other. They're going after the opposition, and you may be ticked off when you get back to the locker room because at one of your players because he or she didn't do something they were supposed to do on the court or on the field. And you may, on the bench, when all the other players are standing around so that nobody can see, you may have to get after him or her. But on the court, when you're playing, you don't do that. So listen, it seems it's easy for people to go after their own because I think it's sort of like I'm not worried about what they're going to say back to me because they're going to spend their time defending. No, we need to spend more of our energy going after those who are coming for us. We need to fight in that manner, and I know I'm going to say it'll be a month from now. It might be 2 months from now. It'll be a year from now. And I'll say Dems need to step up in this area. That is me being being constructively critical. It's not about dogging somebody out for the purposes of doing that. And so the reason that I wanted, those two clips to be kind of part of our lead off is, one, to speak about what individuals are doing with our Hands Across Chicago event this past weekend. That's what we're doing. That's what individuals are doing. And then we have leaders like Mayor Brandon Johnson. You can have issues with him all day long. I want him to do better. Absolutely. I've said that many times, and I've said it when we've had him on our show. At the same time, he is one of the mayors in the country that is not bending a knee and standing up and taking a leadership position. Because right now, as much as the local events and the local management of the city of Chicago is important, and it is, just like Mayor Karen Bass in Los Angeles, just like in any other the top 10 big cities in the country, all of the local issues and the second 10 and the third 10 are important. But our mayors have to stand up for the folks in their cities, and the mayor of the city of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, is doing that. And he's also doing it in the face of the federal government trying to come in and cause havoc here. So the detractors who want to try to detract from what Mayor Johnson is trying to do, how about get on board and help him defend the city of Chicago? It's not a single person's job or sole responsibility. He is the elected mayor, but how about some of you folks who are sitting on the sidelines and just being keyboard warriors and all the rest about how awful Mayor Johnson is? Do you not understand that one of the things he's trying to do is help protect the city from the carnage that's coming from Washington? Have you stopped for a minute and asked yourself that question? The same thing with Governor Pritzker and with Lieutenant Governor Stratton and with Comptroller Mendoza and with Attorney General Raul and with Cook County President Preckwinkle. They're trying to create a shield of protection for the state of Illinois and the residents in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago and the entire community. So get on board with helping them in that effort rather than trying to drag them down because you just want to be partisan or a keyboard warrior. I'm going to change my words. I'm encouraging us to do that because that's how we fight forward. So there you go. Let's take a quick break, Henry. The number is 773-763-9278. That's the Credo mobile phone and text line. And it's also Choose Views. We'll be right back.
WCPT 20th Anniversary Replay 2023.
Welcome to the WCPT AM 820 Mayoral Forum. We are so glad all the candidates are here. Commissioner Johnson, you clearly have the support of the Chicago Teachers Union, endorsements, money from them. How are you going to balance those ties with the obligation to oversee CPS as mayor?
Well, again, no one has better incentive on this stage for the city of Chicago to work, particularly its public schools, than someone who is actually sending their children to the Chicago public schools. I think I'll be the first mayor in recent history to actually have children in the public schools. Here's the second thing, elected representative school board. We fought for it. We have it. We're going to be negotiating not just with an elected representative school board, the city council, the state of Illinois, the Congress. So it's going to take all of us because the politics of old has left us behind.
Listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. Today, live, local, and progressive, John St. Augustine will be in for Joan, and his guests will include author and journalist Kathleen Falsani and Dr. Betsy Sutherland, former director of the Office of Science and Technology in the EPA's Office of Water. Live, local, and progressive weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez this evening. She'll be joined by Dr. Kristen Layerly, OBGYN physician, host of the Dr. Christian Layerly Show, and former Democratic candidate for Congress in Wisconsin's 8th District. Warren Hawk Priest and Peter Sorellis of Source Solar. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT, the Heartland Signal website. Tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow's show, we will be talking with our good friend Karen Byrne, co-host of True Blue Politics podcast. Actually, Karen's going to be with us here in studio. And Michelle Duster, author, educator, historian, and her Chicago work, often best known, is the preserving the legacy of her great-grandmother, Ida B. Wells. Michelle's going to be talking about something that I think is really kind of cool, a little bit of history and understanding the history of Memorial Day. So we're looking forward to having both of those guys with us tomorrow. Okay, let's have a couple of Choose Views news items for you here on May 22nd, 2025. Lowe's is weathering the tariff storm. What does that mean? Lowe's is weathering the uncertainty around tariffs better than some of its peers. The retailer said yesterday that they were still going with some of their forecasts for 2024. Its quarterly earnings also reflected growing sales among home professionals, which helped offset slowing demand from do-it-yourself customers. CEO Marvin Ellison credited investments in stores and technology for helping Lowe's overcome economic and housing market headwinds. Meanwhile, Target had a tougher quarter and slashed its sales outlook yesterday. Speaking of that, Target did cut its outlook amid the levy of some of the tariffs. Target is the largest major retailer to slash its sales outlook amid the uncertainty of the tariffs and softer discretionary spending. First quarter sales fell almost 3% over a year earlier. The company announced yesterday. Also, Brian Cornell told reporters that Target is losing ground to its rivals in nearly half of its key merchandise categories. The company stepped back from its DEI programs has proved problematic too, spurring backlash from shoppers. Well, that was kind of an obvious one that was going to happen. Let's see, what else do we have for you today? This morning, TikTok Shop employees await layoffs. The U.S. TikTok Shop employees are awaiting bad news that's coming potentially tomorrow. The app's e-commerce team was told to work from home as the company mulls, quote, difficult decisions, which are widely expected to be layoffs, according to Bloomberg. So brace yourself, guys. And we did see a little bit of a market slump. Stocks fell and Treasury yields climbed yesterday amid the mounting concerns about the proposed federal budget bill and how it could exacerbate the nation's deficit. All three major stock indexes slumped, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average recording the sharpest decline. The yield on 30-year Treasury bond rose 5.08%, highest since October of 2023, according to CNBC. All right, so we've got to brace ourselves because we know this bill is, this big, beautiful bill is on the cusp of causing some serious drama and issues. That's why I wanted to bring you a couple of the financial items today. Some of you that pay attention may pay more attention to that than others. All right, so as when we talked earlier a little bit about the Hands Across, I almost said Hands Across America, which is hopefully what it could turn into. Hands Across Chicago blossoms into Hands Across the Midwest. I don't know where we'd start. Maybe we start in Minneapolis and then make our way down to Chicago. That might be it. And then we do another one, and it's from Chicago to Detroit. You know, and so we pick up different cities. I don't think that's out of the question. It won't surprise me if that starts to happen more, or there'll be more states that do a version of that, and some are doing smaller versions of it in communities. But the point I want to make around that, or thing I want to ask you guys, if you participated in it, give me a call. Give us a call this morning. We'd like to hear what your thoughts were about it, how it felt to be a part of it, and just to share with us what you saw, what you felt. Because it ties back to something that I said. In the conversation around fighting, that's a form of fighting. Not everybody can get out and do that. I fully understand and respect that. But it is a form of fighting. It's a form of speaking out. It's a form of having your voice be heard. It's also, and this is the thing that I say so many times, so I know you guys may get tired of hearing it, but it's important, and I believe it's important. It also gets you connected to people that are out there doing something. When you feel like that all hope is lost, when you can connect with folks, when you can get connected with people that are part of the community, the smaller community, which then obviously expands it to a bigger number, that's empowering. And that's part of the reason that I feel that getting out and being involved is important. That doesn't change the fact that, or it doesn't mean that I don't understand some folks, that's not their thing, that's not their vibe, and I respect that. But if you did participate, give me a holler this morning. Send me a text as well, either way. But give us a shout, and we'll get you on the air so we can talk about what that felt like and what it did for your soul, how it made you, maybe think a little bit differently about how you want to fight forward. I said yesterday that we were going to try to spend a little bit of time today talking about how this is going to sound, I don't know how this is going to sound. I'll just say it, and you guys will have to let me know one way or the other. Giving it to Trump and the GOP this morning. We're gonna spend a little bit of time in the 6:30 hour giving it to Trump and members of his administration and some of the things that they've done and these testimonies that they've been a part of, and then some interviews that we feel are important that you hear, that we were able to put together some clips in that space. But I ran across this clip that I think really does speak to the measuring of how we've gone. We're not going off the rails. We're off the rails, and how it does feel similar for those who know history to what another dictatorial leader did years and years ago. Henry, do we have the Trump and Hitler clip available? We do? And I want you guys to check this out. There's a little bit of humor in it, but it's also a message that I think that we all can pay attention to right now.
Doesn't it feel weird to just be like getting coffee? Like with our crumbling democracy? Is this what people felt like in Nazi Germany? Don't say that. What do you mean? Listen, I get that you don't like Trump and that's fine, but acting like he's going to kill 6 million Jews is ridiculous. It completely dishonors the survivors and victims of the Holocaust. You know that saying about people who refuse to learn from history are doomed to repeat it? Yup. Yeah, so history is full of patterns, and it's our job to recognize them and call them out when we see them. You know when you hear a song and you're like, oh, that sounds just like that other song. They're not the same song, but they sound similar enough for you to be like, hey, yeah, Trump doesn't hate Jews. He literally has Jewish grandchildren. But you're looking for sameness again. Just because Trump uses the same tactics as the big H doesn't mean there's going to be an identical outcome. Like what tactics? Undermining democracy, consolidating power within the executive branch, attacking the media, seizing control of education, paying women to have babies, blaming immigrants for everything, especially the economy. Just those. Okay, do you know when Hitler became the leader of the Nazi Party? I couldn't tell you the exact day, but the 1930s. 1921, but so few people pay attention to the lead up to the Holocaust. We just focus on the outcome. Historians and Holocaust survivors have warned us for damn near 100 years at this point. Don't just remember how it ended, pay attention to how it began. They know all too well the dangers of not taking someone like this seriously. And I'd argue that we actually have a moral responsibility to call out these things when we see them. So many people choose to stay silent because they're afraid of offending someone or coming off as overly dramatic. But authoritarians love a silent civilian.
And that's why we can't be silent. They do love a silent citizenry. And we have the choice. See, one of the differences that I think that Anna, who I'm going to be working to try to get on the show, she does some great stuff. One of the points that she makes there is about why we aren't exactly, obviously, where we were in the 30s and the ascent of Hitler. But what we are in is it is a slow moving, now faster moving train of taking away different resources that then put people in a position where they, may feel that they have to be beholden to someone or to some entity or some way of thinking. We're not in that same time. And I think that technology and the ability to communicate in the blink of an eye is a big part of why we have so much more power than we realize. And I also feel like, for example, the Hands Across Chicago event is a good example of, the state of Illinois is not going to come down on people for being out and protesting like that. And the federal government's certainly not going to come into the state of Illinois and do that. Now, some people might say, yeah, Richard, but just because they haven't done it doesn't mean that they won't do it. that creates a certain amount of civil unrest that I don't think that will happen. I could be wrong. I'm always going to be open to the I could be wrong part of the conversation. But the point I want to make, so that I don't get too deep in the weeds on this, is because some people may say, "Well, Richard, what do you think the raids are and coming in from ICE?" So I'm aware of that, just so you know I'm paying attention. What I'm saying is we have to take the position of being empowered rather than not being empowered or having our power taken away. And that's why I think it's important that we follow the leads of those who are getting out and making statements and pushing back, and go back to what we said a little over a week ago in terms of what Attorney General Letitia James is doing with regards to the courts and why we are winning so many other battles. The fight is right in front of us, and the opportunities to participate, I believe, are only going to get bigger. So we want to be prepared to get involved so that we don't become silent, like our clip said, and that we do stay vocal 24/7. That's the opportunity. In fact, it's the requirement. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna do a little bit of what I'll say, giving it to the GOP and the Trump administration based on a variety of different hearings and interviews that we were able to capture over the last couple of days. The number is 773-763-9278. That's the Credo Mobile phone and text line. Credo Mobile, a progressive company that is better for all people and the planet. Visit credomobile.com. We'll be right back.
Check Up on Health with Chris Whitting.
More than 40% of Americans spend more than 3 hours a day staring at a computer or handheld digital device. Dr. Nate Bonilla-Warford, a Tampa-based optometrist, says that screen time can result in a genuine problem.
Well, it's called computer vision syndrome, and it's basically a collection of different visual and eye health problems that people may already have but are made worse by using the computer or using a handheld digital device. Symptoms that people may not associate with the computer but do affect their quality of life and their performance.
The most common symptoms?
82% of people had eye strain and 74% had dry or irritated eyes. 61% had headaches. So there needs to be a discussion about whether or not those symptoms have any relation to digital usage or whether they're unrelated.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high into the upper 50s. Winds out of the northeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. And then for tonight, partly cloudy, although near 44. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 64 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high around 65. Sunday, sunny, high of 64. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 49.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. Credo Mobile phone and text line 773-763-9278. Again, that is 773-763-9278. Sometimes we have to slow it down, Henry. So make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Of course, all of the great work that we're doing there, the various articles and posts that we have. One in particular is a Heartland Signal on X clip of U.S. Senator from Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin, talking to Kristi Noem, Homeland Security. We're going to come back to a little bit of a conversation that was had, an observation about Kristi Noem in a minute. But yesterday, I was talking a little bit about some numbers, and I'm going to pull together a few more over the next couple of weeks in this space regarding this big, beautiful bill and, you know, how it's impacting people in terms of their income level and in relationship to what they're going to gain and what they're going to lose. And here's a a little bit of an additional breakdown. I was talking about this yesterday, but here's what it looks like. People making over $4.3 million a year, and I think I said yesterday over $3 million, their gain is going to be $389,000. Now, if you're already, that's roughly 9%, 8.5%, 9% of their income. They're going to get a bonus, if you will. I don't know if they necessarily need it. I'm not going to say if they need it or not. You would hope that at that income level, you don't need it. It's a huge A bonus, but I'm not spending anybody else's money. I'm just saying you would think that. But by comparison, here's the way in which you really want to look at this, and that's what people who are making significantly less are going to lose, and have that be magnified by benefits going away where they may need them. People making between $17,000 and $51,000 a year are going to lose $700. I would take the risk of saying that a person that's going to lose $700 in terms of their monies for the year, that could be a variety of things. It could be books for their son or daughter. It could be, new outfits for school, a variety of things in that space. It could be, who knows? But they're going to lose, and potentially if they have a need for some of the federal safety nets, that can go away. That can be impacted. And if they're helping an older parent, that those benefits are integral to their life, they now have to dig deeper to cover those costs. Plus, based on this Republican and Trump tax bill, are going to have less that they're going to be able to credit on their taxes by $700. People making less than $17,000 a year are going to lose $1,000. I mean, that's a significant amount of money for that person or for people in those income brackets. By comparison, the $389,000 that a $4.3 million person is earning, that goes away if they didn't get that. Well, let me put it in the other way. That gain of $389,000, if that's gonna change their life that much, then I can tell you from just simple math and common sense, then they're probably not navigating that $4.3 million as well as they could. They're not, by comparison, odds are, and again, I don't want to make a statement that's an assumptive statement, but just some common sense in there. They're probably not navigating that $4.3 million a year to the best of their ability. If that $389,000 is going to change their life proportionate to a person who's going to lose $700 or $1,000 who makes a significantly lower amount of money. And I'm not in the conversation about, we're all into giveaways for people, because if we were to have that conversation, the $389,000 is quite a giveaway. That's 6.5 times more income. That's 6.5 times more dollars than the income of a person that's going to lose $700. That's obnoxious, to be honest with you, that we would be even thinking about giving that group of people. Because if that's an individual's income, there's no trickle down. That if it's a business owner that he or she is earning that as their income from the business, what are they doing to share with that income, or share in that success with the employees of the business? It's a fair conversation. I'd like to see that if that gain is for a small business owner, then he or she puts that money back into the business. That's real trickle down. That's real spreading the wealth to the people that work there. Maybe one of those people that makes $51,000 a year works at that company, and that can be spread in terms of various bonuses for the company, for the employees of the company. I don't know. I get creative with this thinking because it's common sense. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. It really isn't in my understanding of this, and I think I have a reasonable understanding of it. So, all right, let's get into this conversation about throwing some shade at the GOP and throwing some shade at the Trump administration. We've all heard the conversations around this testimony that Kristi Noem had, and around the conversation of habeas corpus, among other things. So Every time I think about this, I think about this TV show from the 70s called Get Christie Love. And it goes back to 74, 75. So it's a long time ago. But I think about Christy Nome and I think about this TV show. I don't know. My brain works that way sometimes. Some of you who have been around the block a little bit remember the show. Has nothing to do with Christy Nome other than the fact that it just rolls off, because the Democratic senators and voices were really getting after Christy Nome in this hearing. And so Michael Steele and the folks on the show that he's on MSNBC had something to say as well. And Henry and I put together a clip that I think you guys might like.
What is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to.
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas
right
corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
Habeas corpus, you have the body. It is the government taking someone and imprisoning them without due process, and that's what it prevents. That's what it's there for.
Yes, it allows people to challenge their detention.
Challenge their detention to make sure that the government is justified in taking people. And the fact that the Homeland Security Secretary had no clue what it was as she's snatching bodies.
Almost thought it was the opposite.
Habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has.
That sounded like a rehearsed answer. When you go into the hearings, obviously, there's prep that the principals do. So someone either told her that or that's what she truly believes. Either way, it is ignorant and unacceptable.
It feeds the beast behind the resolute desk. That's what that line is. The constitutional right that the president has. Where, Christy Nome, in the Constitution does the president have more power than the people? Come on. Why are you in the job?
That's a question that I want some of the folks sitting at the hearings, the Democratic leaders, to start asking. And so the reason I wanted you guys to hear this clip is that piece right there is the thing that I want to see more of. I want the Democratic leaders to, and they're starting to do it. I want them to do it every single time. And I'm going to circle back to a clip from earlier in the week just to make a point. I want our Democratic leaders, in terms of their fight, to be ones where they say, why are you in the job? Make them answer that question. What makes you qualified to hold this job when you don't know the answer to this question? And stop having this debate with them. Start saying, you don't know how to do the job. You shouldn't be in the job. I like what Chris Murphy, Senator Van Hollen said to Marco Rubio. I regret my vote. Start saying that publicly. I regret my vote. I was wrong in voting for you. You don't know what you're doing. Start saying what Michael Steele said. You shouldn't be in this job. You don't know what you're doing. You're harming Americans. That, to me, is part of the language that the Democrats are going to need to have and be using right now. And Rachel and I talk a little bit about this in our segment. That's the language that I want Democrats to start to use. You don't know how to do this job. You're not capable of doing this job. You are not qualified. You're mediocre at best. Take the damn gloves off and punch with those kinds of words, because I believe, I'm willing to say I could be wrong, but I'd rather try it out first and come back and go, let's try something different. But I say, let's start there. Let's start with, you don't deserve to be in this job, and make a point every time that they're in a hearing to say, you're here, you're basically parading around for the purposes of satisfying Donald Trump, not the American people. Say those words, Democrats. Y'all can do it. Trust me. I'll encourage you. I'll be behind you to say those words. It's not going to get you in any trouble. And if it does, it's good trouble, because it's trouble to help the country, help your constituents. That's what I want to see happen. But to that point, Christy Nome shouldn't be in the job. She shouldn't be. She doesn't know. Okay, I'm throwing Henry under the bus, but not for bad measure. I would bet that with a certain amount of coaching and a certain amount of, just support, that Henry could do a better job than Christy Nome in this role, because he has the compassion that it takes to be in a role that's so integral to our country. Now, that's not throwing Henry under the bus. Y'all know I would never do that. But I'm saying his chronological age is not it would be nothing but a help for him because he'd go in with open mind. Kristi Noem is just, she's parading and peacocking for, like Michael Steele said, the dude behind the Resolute desk. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's cosplaying. And there's many other young folks that would be a better choice. And that's what we have to stay focused on and continue to lean into. And we'll talk about that with our guests in the 7 and 7:30 segment. But I wanted to throw some shade. That's the first bit of shade that we're going to throw at the Republican Party, the GOP, the administration, and the like. When we come back from this quick break, we got a couple more that I want you guys to hear. The number is 773-763-9278. It's the Credo Mobile phone and text line, y'all. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the 1830s in Lowell, Massachusetts, during the rise of the textile industry, factories were hiring large groups of women ranging in ages 18 to 35 to work at their mills. The workdays were 13 hours long and had poor working conditions. By 1834, the textile market was sluggish. In response, the workers' wages were reduced by 12.5%. One of the workers, Julia Wilson, tried to organize the women to get their wages back, only to be terminated abruptly. Wilson signaled the women to strike or turn out. Over 800 women marched and signed a petition saying we will not go back into the mills to work unless our wages are continued. Ultimately, the strike failed, but they learned from their mistake and successfully battled back a rent increase on their boarding houses 2 years later. By January 1845, about a dozen of the Lowell female textile workers came together to form the Lowell Female Labor Reform Association. This would become the first organized union of women workers in American history. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
It's Chew's View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Chew's Views. Glad you guys can be with us. And just as a reminder, you can get both Chew's Views featured interviews and full episodes. Podcasts available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Amazon. You can check us out there. All right. More shade to throw at this GOP gang of fools. And specifically, Senator, well, we'll save that one for a little bit later and we'll come back. Chris Murphy was really not having it. And I think that this will really represent how even those who we think are capable of doing the job somewhat, maybe because of their experience, are not. And he had no time for the craziness from Marco Rubio. And what I found interesting is that he was not apologetic. He just was forward moving in what he had to say. So we had actually two clips from Senator Chris Murphy. And this first one is his conversation with Marco Rubio.
Let me ask you about the dinner that's happening this Thursday night. The president has offered access to him to the 200 top purchasers of his meme coin. Reports are that maybe about half or more of those individuals who will be meeting with him, many in a VIP reception, are foreigners. Do you have a list of those foreign individuals who will be meeting with the president?
I don't. I don't know anything about. I didn't even know there was a dinner on Thursday night, so I'm not sure what you're referring to.
So you don't know whether any of the foreign individuals who are going to be meeting with the president this Thursday night, for instance, are on our list of sanctioned individuals, or whether any of those individuals have connections to, let's say, terrorist organizations abroad?
Well, I think if they had terrorist links, the Department of Homeland Security probably would not have allowed them into the country. But I don't even know there is a dinner on Thursday. You're asking me about something I don't know about.
Well, but listen, this is a dinner that the president is having. It is likely going to involve some very significant foreign interests. You have to be pretty wealthy in order to be able to get inside this dinner. Isn't that a relevant question for the Secretary of State?
Yeah, I'm not the social
Which foreign
secretary,
interests
so.
are going to be speaking to the president? I mean, it's kind of naive to believe that they aren't going to be in that room talking about national security matters.
Well, I don't think that that's the case at all, because I would be aware if it was the case. The truth of the matter is I interact with government officials and others in governments of other countries. That's what I don't tell you, asking me about a dinner I don't know anything about. I can't answer you because I don't know anything about this dinner. It's the first I heard of it. Like I said, I don't keep the president's social schedule. It's not on my phone. It's not in my pocket. I don't even know. I can't comment on a dinner I know nothing about.
Yeah, I think that represents a real problem for this committee, because there is clearly a way around the State Department for foreign individuals of significant influence and wealth to be able to directly lobby the president of the United States.
But I don't think
your
that's
answer
fair.
is that you don't know this is happening.
Well, I don't know that there's
that
a dinner.
in and of itself is.
I don't know that there's a dinner, and I don't know what the guest list is.
I think you should probably endeavor to get your hands on the list to make sure that there aren't individuals there who are perhaps contravening national security interests that the
Well, I don't think
Department
that's,
of
I don't
State
have any
is
concern about that.
prioritizing.
Ultimately, I don't have any concern that the president having dinner with someone is going to contravene the national security of the United States.
Okay. The arrogance and the flippantness of that is crazy. But let's just go down this path about when he said, I don't think that the director of Homeland Security would let those folks in the country. Okay, I don't trust the director of Homeland Security for that. I really don't. And more importantly, Trump just met with the interim Syrian president, Ahmad al-Sharaa, who is got links to what? Terrorists and terrorism. So I don't, for a minute, trust that the director of Homeland Security knows what the hell is going on. But more importantly, it's a state dinner, we can't call it necessarily a state dinner. I don't want to go down that path. It's a dinner with the president at Mar-a-Lago, so it's state-esque, state adjacent. The problem is, the Secretary of State should know. There's no, if what the president's doing when he's meeting with foreign leaders at any time in any venue, he should be on the list of people. Yeah, we better let Marco know. I'm calling him Marco because that's how I feel like calling him. He should know. The fact that he Henry, what was crazy, and you guys I know heard this, he was proudly displaying, I don't know. He sounded like, many times Trump will go, I don't know this guy. He makes coffee for us. How do you not know? And I was waiting for Senator Murphy to say, how in the hell do you not know? That's part of your job. It's not the entirety of your job, but you should know. And this is one of those moments, again, I go back to what I said prior about Democratic language right now needs to be, if you don't know, then you aren't doing your job. If you and there would have been an opportunity for Senator Murphy to turn to Senator Van Hollen and say, you know what, Senator Van Hollen, I agree with you. We all should regret our vote. We should regret that Marco Rubio is sitting in that chair. I want them to play. I'm going to stop saying they need as much as I can. I probably will slip up and say it. I want to see our Democratic leaders say those kinds of words. Marco Rubio, you don't deserve. If you don't know that, how are you in that job? And, there's another interview that was, or I keep calling them interviews, but there was another hearing where Senator Van Hollen was asking him or saying to him, and you guys may have heard this by now, that he regrets voting for Rubio. And Rubio goes down the path of saying, well, I think I'm doing a great job, and that's why I'm here now. And what would have been great to hear from them is, yeah, but so then you're saying the previous 15 years that I've known you, you didn't do a good job? That's just, keep throwing shade at him, guys. Senators, members of the House of Representatives, state officials, all keep throwing shade at these guys. And Rubio just was, full of arrogance and full of know-it-all. But at the end of the day, he didn't know. And he was proud of the fact, seemingly proud of the fact that he didn't know about this dinner. At this time where we have so much at risk, nationally and globally, he should know. And the Democratic members of the various hearing committees should keep leaning into every single one of them when they show how, mediocre they are. Unqualified for the job. Whether it be Kristi Noem, whether it be Marco Rubio. Henry, let's talk a little bit about this this other clip that was from an interview that Senator Chris Murphy had on MSNBC with Kristen Welker.
President Trump said it would be, quote, stupid not to take it. What is your response to that argument that the U.S. deserves the biggest plane, and President Trump says it's actually going to ultimately save the U.S. money?
So why did he choose these three countries to go to for his first major foreign trip? It's not because these are our most important allies or the most important countries in the world. It's because these are the three countries willing to pay him off. Every single one of these countries is giving Trump money. The plane from Qatar, an investment in his cryptocurrency scam from the UAE, and they are asking for national security concessions in return. This is the definition of corruption. Foreign governments putting money in the president's pocket, and in the United States giving them national security concessions that hurt our own security. By the way, the plane is not a gift to the American people, as the secretary said. It is going directly to Donald Trump. That library will take a decade to build, and so once he leaves the White House, until the library is built, he gets to use that plane to fly around all of his billionaire friends while his policies result in millions of Americans losing their health care and having to pay higher costs. That is the definition of corruption.
It absolutely is, and we know it. And this is one of those other moments of, okay, guys, got to fight. Time to fight. Got to speak up in these spaces, because what Senator says is right on. That the time it's going to take for that plane to be retrofitted and all that, and then the library and et cetera, it's not going to happen in a short window of time. And so why are the American people having to carry that on their backs? So we know the territory. We know we're fighting here. And that's why we have to continue to illuminate these things and bring these things to the table. We've got one other clip we want to hit before we hit the top of the hour, and it is regarding the border bill. And one of the senators who tried to stand up for this, a Republican senator, Langsford, back in the fall, and where we are now versus where we were then when it comes to the border bill and how we're navigating through this border crisis. Let's go to that clip before the top of the break.
Looking back on the compromise you forged on immigration, do you think we'd be better off if that had happened? Or are we better off now that it didn't happen and we just have a different president?
No, we do have a different president that's using the same law that's been there for decades and actually enforcing it, and we're seeing very different outcomes. Thinking about the bill that passed, it should have passed. It would have fixed a lot of the loopholes that are in the law, and it would have been easier to be able to do enforcement now. Because one of the challenges that we have is our asylum laws do include a lot of loopholes in them that cartels have exploited for years. They've become experts in exploiting our law because it's billions of dollars of income to them when they can find those loopholes and gaps. I heard a commentator just last week saying the courts are challenging these different ways that President Trump is enforcing the law. Somebody needs to bring up a bill. True story. Somebody needs to bring up a bill to be able to close some of these loopholes. And it was a conservative commentator that was saying it, and I laughed, and I thought, I know somebody that's brought one of them.
I know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy, and I know a bill that could do that. Now, was the bill everything that I wanted? No. I'm negotiating with the Democrat White House at the time to be able to get it done. But many of the areas that we need to close the loopholes were in that bill. And some form of that we will eventually get done.
And if I read that bill legislative summary correctly, would have had more of the personnel to adjudicate things faster.
Right. Yeah, we were adding more judges. We were adding more ICE agents. We were adding more Border Patrol agents. We added more border wall. We added additional funding that the administration is looking for now would have already been there on January 1 to be able to be there and ready to be able to go when the new White House is actually sworn in.
So now, we would be better off if I hear you correctly.
I do believe we would be, and I think the other thing is last year we had 1 million people that illegally crossed our border after that bill failed. That 1 million people wouldn't have been here.
But yet, the GOP would have you think that it's the fault of the Democrats, when in fact the dude that's in the White House now got in the way of a bill that was a bipartisan bill to help. The most important part about that, we can get into the criticisms of, all the craziness of Trump and the GOP. That's a fact. The most important part, I think, from what Senator Langsford said in that interview on CBS is that we be in a better place. And I thought it was about making things better, about improving. We'd be in a better place. He says it loud and clear. Now, I don't need to go down the path of how he's voted on this, how he's voted on that, disagreements here, disagreements there. The fact is that Trump put his hand on this border bill before it was voted on, and it destroyed it. And he says it, meaning Senator Langsford, we would be better off. So MAGA, center-right, GOP, that's on you. That's on you. We'd be better off. So it's clear. It's coming from the data, not from someone's opinion. And that's what we're faced with, is that we'd be better off in so many other areas. And this is one of them. So, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get right to a segment, an interview that I had with political strategist Rachel Bitecofer. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is your WCPT Progressive Calendar. Tuesday, May 27th at 6:30 p.m., Congressman Brad Schneider, Democrat representing the 10th Congressional District, will be hosting a town hall in Northbrook to answer questions from constituents and update attendees on his actions in Washington. A location address will be emailed to you after registration. To register, visit schneider.house.gov and click the Events tab. Wednesday, June 11th at 6 p.m., Bookends and Beginnings Bookstore presents Molly Jong Fast in conversation with Peter Sagal to celebrate the release of Jong Fast's new book, How to Lose Your Mother, a daughter's memoir about her feminist icon mother, Erica Jong. The event takes place at Nichols Concert Hall in Evanston. Visit Bookends and Beginnings to get your tickets. If you'd like to list your event or sponsor WCPT's Progressive Calendar, send an email to calendar@wcpt820.com.
Active Liver is the easy way to get a daily detox and to keep you healthy and feeling your best. Find Active Liver at your local CVS or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. House Republicans have passed their multi-trillion-dollar tax breaks package, coined as the One Big Beautiful Bill.
In an all-nighter on the House floor, Republican Brett Guthrie of Kentucky said Democrats opposing the bill are showing what their priorities are.
What they're really saying is 4.8 million people who refuse to work a part-time job or volunteer in their community are entitled to free health care paid by hardworking taxpayers. When they're opposed to our bill, what they're really saying is that the 1.4 million illegal immigrants should be prioritized over U.S. citizens.
Democrat Pete Aguilar of California says a vote against the legislation is not the ultimate betrayal that President Donald Trump says it is.
The real betrayal, Mr. Speaker, is to the working people of this country who will pay the price so that billionaires can pay less in taxes.
Donna Warder, Washington.
Last-minute changes to the bill included the striking of sections that authorized the sale of thousands of acres of public lands, accelerated the implementation of a new work requirement for certain able-bodied Medicaid beneficiaries, and a higher state and local tax deduction. 2 Israeli embassy employees based in Washington, D.C. were shot and killed Wednesday evening. The victims were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum when a man approached the group of 4 and opened fire. The suspect has been identified as Elias Rodriguez. He yelled, "Free, free Palestine," after he was arrested inside the museum. At a news conference, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said she spoke with President Trump several times after the shooting. Here's audio from WJLA.
His prayers are with all of us, all of the Jewish community, everyone in Washington, D.C., state, local, and federal agencies, and our great U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, who will be prosecuting this case. We'll be doing everything in our power to keep all citizens safe, especially tonight our Jewish community.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on the Chagos Islands.
A British court has put a last-minute block on a deal to hand the Chagos Islands to Mauritius.
The block came hours before the agreement was due to be signed on Thursday morning at a virtual ceremony. It came in response to a claim by two women representing the island's original residents. The Chagos Islands are home to Diego Garcia, a strategically important naval and bomber base. Under the draft, Britain split the islands away from Mauritius in 1965, 3 years before Mauritius gained independence, and called the Chagos Archipelago the British Indian Ocean Territory. In the 1960s and 1970s, Britain evicted up to 2,000 people from the islands so the US military could build the Diego Garcia base. Under the draft deal, a resettlement fund would be created to help displaced islanders move back to the islands apart from Diego.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high into the upper 50s. Winds out of the northeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. And then for tonight, partly cloudy, although near 44. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 64 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, a high around 65. Sunday, sunny, high of 64. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 49.
Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to Choose Views. 773-763-9278. That's our Credo mobile phone and text line. Okay, had an opportunity to interview political strategist Rachel Bitecofer. We had a lot of fun. We joked, and we got to some serious stuff and some ideas about how to go forward. We're going to go right to that segment. Hey, progressives, this is Richard Chu, and we've always prided ourselves on having great national voices as part of our conversation and people that have had an impact on the course of elections, on the course of conversation, and most definitely use their experience to talk about the things that we need to be talking about. And with us this morning is what I'm going to call doctor, professor, but political strategist and just an overall political person that's involved in so much that's happening in our conversation. And that would be none other than Rachel Bitecofer. Good morning, Rachel, and welcome to Choose Views.
Well, good morning to you too, Richard, and thank you so much for that wonderful warm-up. It's very kind.
Well, yes, it is, but it's also very true and accurate. So I'm just glad to have you on. I know that you've been with some of our other folks on WCPT. You've talked with Joan Esposito in the past, and I had been saying to myself and to some of the producers here for a while, we've got to get Rachel on Choose Views because I love the way you say what you have to say, and you'll appreciate this. I would say that people might think you're from Chicago, specifically the south side of Chicago, because with phrases like and titles like "hit 'em where it hurts," that's a Chicago phrase, Rachel. Are you sure you're not from Chicago?
Dude, I am not sure that I'm not from Chicago, and let me tell you. Because, how you just end up someplace, I don't know. I do. I end up in Chicago. Okay, that's my place. I've been there, I don't know now, dozens of times. It always comes up. It came up when I was listening to rock and roll music. I would go to a show, at the Chicago Theater, right?
Yep.
It came up when I was a professor because they do academic conferences. Where would they be? In Chicago, right? And now I've been to Chicago, twice last year for the DNC convention,
right.
The pre-planning and the post, the actual convention. So, yeah, Chicago's kind of my second my Windy City, second home. Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of people have made it that. I mean, we have been known for some of the biggest firsts that you could imagine. Obviously, the first African-American president came from Chicago in Barack Obama. First African-American U.S. senator, female, in Carol Moseley Braun. The list goes on, and I don't have them off the top of my head.
Richard,
the Pope. You got there before. The Pope is from Chicago. I mean, Rachel, listen.
I mean, between that and Caleb Williams, you guys should be able to get a good season out of that, right?
I'm
you
hoping
got
so.
You got Caleb Williams.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, Rachel. Listen, one of the things that I've always enjoyed about you is in the energy, and when I've listened to you on other shows and podcasts, the energy that you bring to the conversation, even when stuff is just looking, hellified and crazy and awful. And after the election, I listened to you on a couple different shows. And one of the things that you said is, listen, this stinks. These are my words. You said, this stinks. This happened. Because you, like so many people who are analysts and strategists, had a pretty good feeling that it would go in a different direction. But the thing that I found really compelling and great about your narrative right after the election was you said, you know what? There's some lessons that we have to learn. It didn't go the way we wanted. We've got work to do, but we need to punch hard against the crazies and the craziness that's going to come at us on the right. And you did it with that energy and that laughter and that big laugh that you have to say, look, y'all, don't roll up your tent. We still got work to do. And that's why
more work.
Yeah. And now even more, 120 days in, even more work.
Yeah.
But Rachel, talk a little bit about the, I guess you could say, the motivation behind titling your work, Hit 'em Where It Hurts. I wanted listeners to kind of get a little bit of a feel, and I know you and Aaron Murphy had worked on this together, but talk a little bit about what you mean by Hit 'em Where It Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, what Hit 'em Where It Hurts is about really is capstoning what an unintentional intellectual journey I went on. As you alluded to, I have a doctorate I have a doctorate, so the doc, right? And I was a professor. And my academic area of interest is my dissertation and focuses on American political behavior, campaigns and elections and stuff like that. So, it is a natural odyssey that led me, some people don't notice, I guess, the strategies that the two parties do, but that was a big focal point of my academic research. I'm like, look, you're looking at these two parties, but they're so different. They behave very differently. One's heterogeneous, one is homogenous, and they don't do politics. Like the Democrats, they run on policy, right? And the Republicans run on emotion. And I think we've determined which is more effective at winning elections, right? It ain't policy, dude. So, getting people to understand, how do you teach Democrats to be mean? It's not very easy, So it's the book is a manual on how to hit them where it hurts, how to construct a message that makes a visual. It's one thing to tell people that, the GOP budget they're working on right now is going to cut food stamps and Medicaid, but that's one way to say it. Or you could say they're taking macaroni and cheese out of your toddler's mouth to pay for tax cuts for Elon.
There it is. There it is.
See how different that is?
Listen,
yeah.
No, and I like that because I'm not going to bash Democrats. I'm going to say, I say this on my show every single day. I'm going to be critical, but also complimentary and pushing them forward, pushing them harder. And I sometimes I use some sports analogies to make the point. And that is, sometimes you do have to throw an elbow and turn and look at the player you threw it on and say, now don't come down the lane again like that. I'm going to throw another elbow. And that's not being nasty, but it's making a point and then standing behind it. So here's some messaging. Not messaging, but here's a sort of a process to what you just said about the macaroni example. What I want to see our Democrats do, and I'm not the dude that is going to be just constantly harping on how awful they are, because that's not going to work either. This is what I'd like to see more of. I'd like to see Democrats say, look, here's the problem. Here's what we're going to do about it, and here's how it's going to benefit you. Because the Republicans, by contrast, are doing this. And to your point, Rachel, to fill that in, And that's causing that macaroni and cheese. That's causing that one vacation that y'all get to take. That's causing that extra pair of sneakers or extra Barbie doll to be taken away. And make that, because then people can feel that, they can see that, they can go, you know what, doggone it, nobody needs to tell me how many Barbie dolls I can have or my child can have. And then businesses, this is the opportunity that I think that businesses have that Democrats should rally around. And that's to go to businesses and like tell Walmart, hey, Walmart, don't let Donald Trump tell you to eat the tariffs. And pick the top 10 of the Fortune 500, the top 50, and go to them with the message and say, why are you going to let Donald Trump tell you to eat the tariffs? Y'all need to turn around on him and say, look, Donald Trump, we're not eating the damn tariffs. You're going to eat the tariffs. That's how I want to see Democrats fight this from now and forward. And I just want to get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing. Trying to create a system, trying to create it anywhere in the system. My criticism of Democrats is always constructive criticism, because here's the thing, guys. The Republican Party is a fascist cult. Yep. Now people believe me because they're actually living in a fascist cult, so it's a lot easier. But, we're not up against a traditional political party. We're up against a mass psychosis event, right?
Yep.
And really it comes down to the first part of the book, which if people haven't read, they really should read, because we're talking about the what to do, but the why is in the first half. And the first half of the book tries to get our audience, your audience, to understand that if you know who the senators of your state are, you're weird. Okay? Normal. Maybe in Chicago, right, on the Miracle Mile, and Michigan Ave, everyone you stop maybe could tell you who the senators are. But, outside of the big cities and these elite, liberal type of situations where you're at colleges and you're in the Beltway or wherever it is, you can't stop a person in the grocery store in Eugene and have a discussion about, oh, did you see that shut down, or it took 15 votes to elect a speaker. If you went and said that to some rando on a sidewalk, they would look at you like you were insane. Now, you could do that about sports, okay? Mm-hmm. You could do that about sports, because sports are something that average people are into. The average people are not into politics, and so they know what you know about something you're not into, audience. So think about something you're not into. Opera, NASCAR, whatever it is, and try to flesh out that institution, how it works, what it does, where it is, who's in it, who's the big players, and you'll find very quickly you don't know, and you have no context, and you can't really navigate that topic, right? Well, that's how people are about politics. For most people, they know who the president is, they understand which party that is, and they have a general, and that's kind of our problem, an idea of what each party stands for. Well, our party has been defined by its most extreme elements because the GOP has wedged those elements and defined us around them, right? Yep. Meanwhile, so we're a party of fairly moderate pragmatist people that is defined as an extremist movement. They are a party of extremists that is defined as a moderate movement, and that's because we're too busy talking about how Kamala Harris is going to give you an economic opportunity, whatever it was, and joy, right? And, fleshing out policy position papers. What we should be doing is making sure that voters hear about how terrible Republicans are and what we're going to do for them if they can get the Republican Party out of the way.
And I think we did, I know that did happen. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in a way that people could digest, because I heard that message. Maybe, and this is where I go, I can't, I'm the guy that happens to be, a political pragmatist on a lot lot of things. I don't go too far left or too far right and pretty much anything in my life. But when it came to this past election, that message was out there. But I think that the fact that people did not hear it, and you ask the Democratic Party what was wrong with the messaging, I don't think the message per se was wrong, because that would then.
Well, let me tell you then.
Well, let me tell you. Let me finish my thought on that. I don't think the message was the wrong message. And this is where people can go. Then you're just having a semantics argument. I think that I think the Democratic Party, and I'm willing to hear that the message was wrong, or that the messaging was wrong, or that who it went to was wrong. I get all that, and I'm not going to allow either of us to rehash that. because what I want to be able to do is say going forward, because it's really easy. Here's the easy thing to do. The easy thing is to look back and say, oh, my God, look at all the things that were done wrong. What I prefer to do, and what I hope you can do, is say, okay, we can all agree that there's a lot that was done wrong or could have been done better, but how do we take that and go forward? Because the reality is the people that are probably going to deliver that message, which is why I say it's dangerous to go backward and grab the wrong and place it in the current time. I think a better solution is how do we go forward knowing what we know about the past? Because to your point, we have to punch way differently. So how do we punch differently, Rachel? That's the question that I think so many people are asking. How do we punch differently?
All right, well, I can mix all that up into one counterpoint, okay? Let me give you a statistic from the election, from the exit polling, which exit polling is voters who voted, and pollsters are like, who'd you vote for, and a bunch of other stuff, right? So they're one of the best survey data sets we end up with every 4 years. And in that exit poll data, guys, 60% of swing voters in the swing states had favorable memories of Trump's first term.
Yep, I get it.
Yep. Hold on. And the reason that they did that is because we don't have a system for punching at all. We don't punch. It's not just that we don't punch back. I mean, we do that sometimes on social media, but what matters, Richard, is the paid ads. Okay, so it doesn't matter if she's got freedom on the stage at the DNC. We're talking about 10% of the population watches a party convention in any capacity, right? So the message that matters is the one that goes on TV and digital ads. Mm-hmm. And so if you are talking about if you're trying to sell your product, you're not talking about them, okay? So the reason I'm kind of trying to wedge this in is that you're saying, well, how do you hit back? Well, first, what you have to do is you have to get off of the back notion and get on the forefront. So the best defense is a good offense.
Always.
Right?
Always.
And, yeah. So my work is about getting us off this posture, but it also is about understanding your target voter knows nothing. They don't know anything about any of the stuff that we spent this week wanting to barf over.
Yeah.
Your voter in suburban Cleveland or, suburban Illinois does not know any of that stuff, okay? So our job is to bring that voter up to speed on what has happened to the Republican Party, what they're doing to people, how they lie and steal and cheat and talk out of both sides of their mouths, right? Now, that message means that we can't be talking about how great we are very much. We have to be talking about them. That is the hardest pivot for this party to make. It has never been a party that is focused on the opposition. Their entire system is focused on the opposition. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
That my work is really like going forward. You were asking, what are we doing going forward? Going forward is trying to retrain people to get off of that old model and onto this new counter offense.
And the people that you're talking about are the, quote, elected officials or those that are running or those that are going to carry the message, not the voters, because you're saying that the voters don't get that in the first place. They need to be that needs to be the take forward message. So that leads me to a couple questions. One of them is this. You said that the 60% exit polls said that they were they had fond memories of Trump's first term, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what was it about the first term, if there were a deeper dive, that they felt good about?
Trump told them it was the best economy ever.
Okay.
And they believe it. They absolutely believed it.
Okay.
That's it. Like 4 years of it's the best economy ever, and then he left office and kept talking about how great his economy is. And keep in mind, we're talking about a broad electorate, a national electorate, If we think about that electorate, for them, like Trump is a distant memory 4 years later. For us, he never died.
Okay.
Like he never went away, right? Like I was like, oh, he's not going to concede. I knew he wasn't going to concede a loss in 20. Of course he didn't. Then we have January 6th. And then it became clear he's just never going to go away. So for you and me, it's been a continuing novel, right? But for your average voter on the south side of Chicago, that dude was gone, dude. He didn't even exist for 4 years. And so that's why, I mean, number one, every president enjoys that usually. Even George W. Bush, who was down in the 30s because of the financial collapse, as time went on, fondness comes in, right? So Trump was, because we didn't remind them he's a disaster for you. they forgot. And it's just that simple.
Well, and a lot of that was because of the fact that the Biden administration was getting stuff done to get the direction of the country headed differently. And people may say it was headed wrong, but it was headed differently than where Trump had taken the country. So there was a lot of that forget was things have gotten better, and we were coming out of the pandemic and all the things that we can check the boxes on. I think the other part of this, and I don't think I know, is when I hear a statistic like 60% said they had their feeling and their memory of Trump 1 was a good one. The overlay for me would then be and you said it was in the swing states, but in those swing states, what was the makeup demographically of those voters? Because this is what I will tell you, whether it's the south side of Chicago, the north side, downtown, Chicago metropolitan area. And again, this is where we go and say, all right, is it swing state or is it not swing state? But people in those communities don't have a good memory of Donald Trump in his previous term.
Well, yeah, not in Chicago, dude.
But here's the point. Here's the point, which is what a lot of folks, a lot of analysts and strategists don't really talk about enough, and that is that's when culture comes into the conversation, because and this is what I don't want to see be the mistake. We have this conversation about, do we have a culture war? Should we take on the culture war is here. Anybody that says it's not is a damn fool, to be honest with you. It's here because everything about these takeaways are about denying people that are not Caucasian from things that they need to have. But in essence, the greater percentage of those benefits that the administration is taking away happen to be numerically going toward more people that are not of color, if you will. So that's the problem that I have when we overstate the effectiveness of Trump's first term, because now that he's got a second term, there won't be an opportunity to say how great my life was under Trump 2.0, because he's destroying the very thing that those people said made their lives great in the first term. So Democrats, this is the opportunity for Democrats to say, you know what?
Really is. We
have to grab all of that garbage that he dumped and hoisted on the collective community, irrespective of culture, and use that as the weapon to beat the hell out of him and the Republicans, every single last one of them, federal and state, to say, this is what you guys caused. If the Dems don't, that's the opportunity. That's the fight. That's the punch.
That's literally what I'm working on to make you happy.
Man, well, listen, Rachel, I'm going to tell you this, and I mean this with all of my heart. Anything you need that I can do to help in that effort, because I am of the mindset. I criticize Democrats to do my best to try to help them do better, because I'm a puncher. I'm a fighter. I step into the fight in the deep end of the pool, because I know that's what we have to do to win. My good friend and colleague Eric Grant, who hosts a show here on CPT called The Family Meeting, says this all the time. We have to walk into the room and knock some damn tables over and wait for people to scatter and let them set the tables back up, rather than us doing that work. We have to knock the tables over and get people's attention. What do you say?
Yeah, you'll take heart in knowing, like, my strategy is kick them, get them down, and then beat the hell out of them. Okay, like
until they wake the hell up.
Right? Like, I mean, I don't even have a defensive bone in my body. I'm no Travis Hunter. I can't play both sides of the ball, man. There's nothing. Defense is so antithetical to me against this crew of weirdos and freaks. Okay, it's not just that we're losing. It's that we're losing to people who don't know what habeas corpus is.
Can you believe that? Listen, Rachel, okay, I got to ask you this question. When you saw that yesterday and the day before, I know I've never met you face to face, but I know that if you had something in your hands, you broke a couple of televisions or you broke some glass. Am I right or wrong?
Oh, dude, this is my job, right? I monitor national news, and I develop strategy and implement it to win, right? My influence. So to answer your question, Chicago is a huge market, very important part of our party, the heart of the party, Chicago, I would say. And, not enough people know who I am or about my work. I've made some good headway with the Democratic National Committee folks, but there's a lot of people out there, especially your governor, who I could turn into. I mean, that man in my hands, it would be unstoppable, right?
Well, I would tell you that he is doing a lot of great stuff, and I see more coming. But the type of fight that I believe he's going to bring to this fight, if he decides to put his hat in the ring, because listen, he's the first governor after the election that said, "What? If you come from my people, you got to come through me."
That's right. I love him.
Yeah, our interview was even longer because Rachel and I we had fun with that segment. But at the end of the day, what I think is so compelling about her is she studies the numbers. She knows the numbers, and there's a lot that there's even more information inside of the numbers that she studied. But I'm also pretty pragmatic in saying this, and I think a lot of you guys know we had an election where there's a lot of data that we can use, but at the end of the day, let's be simple and be ones to use our common sense. And that the election did come down to four things that are the four legs of my stool: racism, sexism, Christian nationalism, and privilege. That hasn't changed. And I think that that's also got to be part of the conversation as we go forward, whether it's a conversation around policy, whether it's a conversation around culture. I think it can be inclusive of all of that. But check out Rachel's book. I think it's a good read. I had a chance to make my way through parts of it. And I think it can give you some inspiration, you as an individual that's out there trying to find a way to fight. I think it can give you some good inspiration and some good tools to use. And the book is called Hit 'Em Where It Hurts: Save Democracy by Beating Republicans at Their Own Game. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be live with our interview and segment with Michigan Senator Mallory McMorrow. This is Choose View, 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Hi, my dad founded Chicago Community Acupuncture.
My dad did too.
That's because we're sisters.
Yeah, but it's true.
You know, acupuncture has helped billions of people, but some people are still afraid of it.
Why?
They're afraid it'll hurt, or that it won't do anything to help them.
That's silly. We get acupuncture all the time, and it's like less than a mosquito bite. And everyone knows that acupuncture can help a bunch of different problems.
Not everyone knows that.
Someone should tell them.
I think you just did.
So if you'd like to experience top-quality acupuncture at half the price of other places, come visit us at Chicago Community Acupuncture at Milwaukee, Devon, and Nagel. Call 773-853-0920, 773-853-0920, or our website, Chi-Com Acu.
Chicomacu.
CHICOMACU.com.
Or CHICOMACU.com.
Chicomacu.
Either way, we'd love to help you. Start feeling better today.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high into the upper 50s. Winds out of the northeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. And then for tonight, partly cloudy, a low near 44. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 64 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high around 65. Sunday, sunny, high of 64. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 50.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
President Trump has endorsed sweeping cuts to Medicaid.
Hundreds of workers 10,000 have lost their
Plans
jobs.
are in the works to dismantle the Department of Education.
There are moments that will break you. This is not that moment. This moment will challenge us, test us, and if it all feels like too much, that's their plan. They want to make you feel powerless, but you are not powerless. Now, we've been here before. Together, we flipped a red seat when nobody thought it was possible.
Thank you very much.
And then, when things got really ugly, we showed how to fight back.
Mallory McMorrow. She was accused this week by a fellow state senator of wanting to, and I quote,
teach, groom, and sexualize kindergartners. McMorrow responded.
They are not doing anything to fix the real issues that impact people's lives. And I know hate will only win if people like me stand by and let it happen.
I chose this clip as an instructional video, Carville said. That video has been viewed nearly 10 million times.
The senator just showed us how to respond.
She just might be showing Democrats the path to success.
When she practically roared, I felt it in my soul because I've been waiting for someone like her.
In the state of Michigan, Democrats
And we won.
Huge historic wins.
Then we delivered. We expanded the earned income tax credit, repealed the retirement tax for seniors on a fixed income, repealed right to work, restore prevailing wage, universal background checks, repeal our 1931 abortion ban, and expand our state Civil Rights Act to include LGBTQ Michiganders. I know there's a lot of fear and anger and uncertainty right now about people in power who frankly have no business being there. So you know what won't fix it? The same old crap out of Washington.
The Democrats came ready to fight back with their little paddles.
Do you know who will? We will. We need new leaders because the same people in D.C. who got us into this mess are not going to be the ones to get us out of it. I'm Mallory McMorrow, and yes, I'm running for U.S. Senate because we don't have a minute to wait. Are you with me?
All I can do is say, no matter what you do with your political career, your daughter Noah is going to be pretty doggone proud of you. Welcome to the show, State Senator from Michigan, Mallory McMorrow. I am so grateful to have you on the show, and that clip speaks so loudly to who you are, who you become, your ascent to where you are today. And I remember vividly when you had that, we'll call it a kerfuffle, with the legislator in Michigan that tried to accuse you of grooming, and man, you brought the heat. People across the globe went, that's how you fight. So, Madam Senator, welcome to Choose Views.
I appreciate that. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, there's so much that we can talk about. I'll do my very best and keep my promise to keep it on the rails and keep it tight. But probably the two biggest things right now that are happening in your world is that your new book, Hate Won't Win, Find Your Power and Leave This Place Better Than You Found It, which came out back in March. And then the other big piece, which is national news and incredibly important, is that you have announced that you are running for the U.S. Senate seat in the state of Michigan. Tell us a little bit about what's been happening in your world the last 60 to 90 days.
It has been a whirlwind, but Richard, I have to tell you, it feels incredible. I mean, we're waking up the morning after Republicans in Congress voted to pass a big disaster of a bill. I'm not going to call it beautiful. That's going to cut Medicaid for tens of thousands of Michiganders. And by the way, this includes half of the kids in the state of Michigan and 90% of foster care kids. So it's just unfathomable how cruel what we're seeing come out of Congress is. And it just feels like a moment where we need somebody new, somebody who knows how to stand up, to fight back, not just fighting for fighting's sake, but fighting for people. And as I get across this state, since we've kicked off our campaign, people are ready and they're excited. And what feels different to me about this moment is that people are not just showing up at events to demand to know what I am going to do for them. They want to know what they can do too. They're asking, how do I contact members of Congress? Do letters work? Do emails work? Does protest work? How do I actually be a part of getting us out of this? And that is going to be the type of campaign we are going to mount, where it is on us. It's what we can do together, because I am frankly sick and tired of a Democratic Party that pretends like if you just vote hard enough, and this is the most important election of our lifetimes, that everything's going to be fixed. And then all these texts that you've gotten all the way up until Election Day, you get ghosted the day after. People are pissed by that and want a very different type of politics.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that, I mean, I say this on my show pretty much every day. I'm going to criticize Democrats in a way that pushes them forward, Democratic elected officials on whatever level, state, local, our mayor here in Chicago, and our federal officials to push harder, to work harder, to do more, because that's what the country's asking for, whether you're in a rural, an urban, suburban community. One of the questions I want to ask you is that moment. I mean, this is I think it's important for listeners to hear this, and I know that you get asked a variety of different questions, but that moment that sort of lit the fire that was burning or rumbling inside of you a couple of years ago when you came to the microphone at the State House and made it clear of what you stood for. What was that like when you were accused of something and you said, no, we're not going to let this happen? What was that like for you?
So I want to just put it into context for your listeners who may not be from Michigan. I know Chicago, pretty short jump away, but to put it into context, I had flipped a Republican district when I first ran for office in 2018. I came into the minority in the state Senate. The Senate here in Michigan had been controlled by Republicans since 1984. So my entire lifetime has been one-party rule. And this was a few years into my first term. I had introduced dozens of bills. The Republicans ostracized me. I had never even gotten a single hearing on any of my bills, let alone passed anything into law. I had been sexually harassed by a colleague. I had been targeted. There were mailers that went out about me in my first campaign that had a picture of me drinking a margarita by a pool with a curling iron on it, and the curling iron said, "Vote no on McMorrow." So I was used to being a punching bag. But it had gotten to this place where when I woke up one morning to the news that a colleague had accused me by name of wanting to groom and sexualize kindergartners, and let's just say what grooming is. This is befriending children for the purpose of molesting them. It is heinous. That I was done. You know, I had gotten to this place where I felt like I had let everybody down who had donated to my campaign, who had knocked doors for me, everybody who gave up their time and energy to help us do what a lot of people thought was impossible, taking on a Republican incumbent. And I decided if I'm going down, I might as well go down swinging. I was convinced this was going to be the last speech that I would ever give. And you know what? I write about this in my book about kind of what was going through my head in that moment. And I was in a place, I was like, to hell with these people and this place. I came in thinking, finally, I was going to have a title. I was going to have the power to make the changes that would benefit my constituents in the state of Michigan, not to be, you know, shoved into a corner and painted as a ditzy little girl and now, you know, an abuser of kids. So there was something very freeing about that. I was in this headspace of, I'm not going to run for re-election. Let's just go for it. And the response to that speech, I mean, even to this day, it's years later, and people tell me how they still listen to it. They cue it up when they're having a bad day, how much it meant to them. I got letters from all over the country. It pulled me back into this work, and it showed me, you know, it's not just about the title. It's about using your voice and how you use it and how you stand up for people. And, you know, I made it a point to identify myself as a straight, white, Christian, married suburban mom who knows that all of this hatred is on people like me who are not going to stand by, even if we're not necessarily the ones under attack.
And that's one of the things that people are asking for. One of the things, it's part of it's the big question. How are Dems going to fight and fight differently as we go forward? I'm a few years older than you, but I was raised in a political family that we were taught to fight all the time, take on the hard fight as best you can, and bring some people with you. So, Senator, how are you fighting differently that people can buy into and say, yeah, I want to be part of that? Because folks all over the country that listen to our station, our shows, they understand the importance of progressive fighters. And you are one of those voices that's leading the charge, and you have been for a few years now. But how do people tap into what you've tapped into to be able to apply it? I'm talking everyday folk, not folks that are necessarily running for office, but the ones that are going to be, you're going to need, all of us are going to need to be there to support you and other fighters. What can individuals tap into?
So first of all, I want every single person to realize how powerful you and your voice actually are. It is a strategy of Donald Trump and this administration to just pummel us every single day with so much bad news and so many wildly offensive actions that we get overwhelmed. I talk to people all over Michigan who say, I'm trying to respond, I'm trying to send an email, I'm trying to do a phone call on every single one of these executive orders, on accepting a plane from the Qataris, on, this Medicaid bill, everything that's happening, and I'm already burned out. So my advice to everybody is you don't have to respond on every single issue. And I know that that can feel really uncomfortable because we care about people and we want to be there. But if you do that, you're going to get burned out, and you're going to get burned out very quickly. So my challenge to everybody is think about the one issue that really motivates you. Maybe it's something that personally impacts you, or something that you just know deep in your heart is going to keep you motivated every single day. And give yourself permission to kind of tune out the rest of the noise and focus on that issue. So if you can go deep in your advocacy on something that is really important to me is gun violence prevention. I lost a friend in the Virginia Tech shooting. I talk to people who make that their singular issue. Join a group like Moms for Demand Action. Learn how to advocate and build relationships with your legislator, your member of Congress, your senator, in a way where you will actually see the impact of the change that you can make. And if you do that and trust that everybody else is going to find their one issue and go deep instead of being shallow and trying to make an impact on every single issue, I believe we're actually going to make change, and you're going to be able to see the power that you really have.
That is so inspiring, and it comes from you, because that's what you have actually done. You took the position that enough is enough, and I'm going to fight for this that I believe in. We're talking with State Senator Mallory McMorrow, who has said it and made it clear she is running for that Senate seat in Michigan. And man, oh man, what power that's going to bring to the table. So this is kind of a two-part question. Sort of, who are your allies that you go and say, these are the people that I'm turning to, that that know me, that have my back, have my support, are supporting me. And in that same conversation, there's some changes going on in Michigan at the top with Governor Whitmer. And how is that impacting you? How is that going to impact the state? So two-part question. Who are your allies, and how are you navigating the change that's going to take place at the top of the state?
Sure. So something that's important to me is to build allies with people who you wouldn't necessarily expect. So it's really easy to find people who agree with us and have our backs always. But, when I ran for office and got elected the first time, running in a Republican district against a Republican incumbent, it required reaching out to maybe small business owners who considered themselves lifelong Republicans, but looked at what's happening with Donald Trump, and they say, I want it to be easier to start and run my small business. I don't want to attack the LGBTQ community. I don't want to whitewash our history. I don't want to demonize immigrants. There are allies there where if you can reach out and say, hey, I'm with you. We may not agree on every single issue, but what is happening right now is unacceptable, and we have to get through this together. My election in the first time around was largely won by retired teachers who volunteered and came out for me in a big way, and high school kids, youth, who looked at what was happening around them on issues like equality and women's rights and gun violence prevention, and knowing that even though they couldn't vote yet, they still have a voice and they matter, and that their future is on the line based on the decisions that people in these powerful positions make. Have to shout out my family always. My husband is my biggest supporter. He, one of his first jobs, he worked for Jennifer Granholm, who became the governor of Michigan. Yeah. He has a book in his mom's house. It's a printed book of MapQuest maps that was labeled the Do Not Get Jennifer Lost book. So he didn't get her lost. He kept his job, and is just a wonderful dad to our daughter, and really helps out so that I can be at events, I can be at rallies, I can be with people, and that is critical. As to where we are, everything is on the ballot in Michigan in 2026. The governor's race, the attorney general's race, Secretary of State race, the U.S. Senate, every congressional seat, all of the state house seats. It's going to be a big year with a lot of change. And I think a state like Michigan, we now have 2 cycles in a row with Senator Stabenow and Senator Peters both deciding they could have stayed in, they could have continued to run, but I think they have recognized that part of leadership is knowing that we've built such a great bench in Michigan of Democrats that there is a time to step back and bring up the next generation. And my hope is that the rest of the country looks at a state like Michigan, thinking about the future of our party, of the Democratic Party, and uses us as a model. So it's a big opportunity ahead of us.
We got some similar potentialities here in Illinois, of course, with Durbin and Schakowsky stepping aside. How do we get the folks off the bench? I'm sorry, not off the bench, off the couch. Last year, Bakari Sellers was here in Chicago, and he said it's Trump, at the time, Biden, because it was May when he was here, or the couch. The couch won this last election when 36% of folks didn't show up to vote. How do we re-inspire and get those people back in the game and back in the stadium?
I mean, part of the reason that we started this campaign as early as we did, right? November 2026 is a long ways away, but building up a campaign that isn't just transactional, which I think is why so many people are so burned out and so frustrated with politics, where it feels like there's all of this pomp and circumstance and events and pressure leading up to November, and then everybody goes away. I mean, I remember the memes on Twitter of like, it's been 7 days and I haven't gotten a text from Kamala. Where is she? Is she okay? And some of that is humorous, but it's also just, I think, the real way that people feel like politicians use them when they need votes or donations and then ghost them. And we want to flip the script on that. We want this to be about something that we are actually building together so that you are a part of this campaign and you are a part of the policies that we push forward. We're going to be doing, a brewery tour across the state of Michigan we're working on in my team right now where, this early, it's not about committing to voting or putting your voting plan together, because that's a long way away. Let's just get to know each other so that you feel like politics is you, that it's not this intimidating thing. It's not something that's done by people in an ivory tower far away. It's something that happens in your backyard, in your neighborhood, with your friends, so that maybe that apathetic person who was on the couch last cycle or, the 18-year-old who just got the ability to vote wants to do it. It doesn't feel like they have to do it. It's a small nuance, but I think shifting it from a have to a want to is what we really need to get to.
Wow. And that is why we're going to have you back, because we want to, create a space for that conversation to be had, more and more people across the country. You talked earlier in the segment of discussing and explaining what happened to you early on. And in that is the word sexism and misogyny. How do you, in the best of best, deal with that? And as it is impacted all elections where there's been a strong woman running for office, how are you navigating through that now as you step into this next phase of running for office, as you look back at what happened to Hillary Clinton, what happened to Kamala Harris?
Your battles, and we all go into this knowing that people judge women very differently. I think for the vice president, she had not only the challenges of being a woman, but being a black woman and what that means. And that was a hurdle that she mounted a damn good campaign for 100 days. But sometimes hurdles are just too big to overcome. I think a beautiful thing about a place like Michigan is we are now at a place where there are so many women in office. Right now, we are a state run by women with Gretchen Whitmer, Dana Nessel, Jocelyn Benson, many of our members of Congress all the way down to the local level. And that allows a climate where I don't feel the pressure that I think Kamala and Hillary did to have to be everything to every woman. I can be myself, and I can be very different than Gretchen Whitmer. I can be very different than Sarah Anthony, who's the appropriations chair here in the state Senate and one of my closest friends. And the authenticity and the freedom to be yourself is something that I don't take for granted. It also means that, I was sexually harassed, I mentioned up top, by a Senate colleague actually on my first day in new senator orientation. And at the time, I didn't say anything about it because in my mind, frankly, it was BS that it happened to me. I had worked my butt off to get into office, and I was just going to suck it up and bury it down. he went on later to do the same thing to a young reporter. He made, effectively a rape joke about her in front of a group of boys in our Capitol, and then he tried to smear her and drag her through the mud. And I realized that it was my duty to come forward and back her up by saying that something similar had happened to me, because looking at it, in my own kind of protective instinct to look out for myself and realize that if I came forward, there was a lot to lose but very little to gain as I was trying to get into office. I left the door open for him to carry out a similar abuse on a young reporter in her first job. So it's not easy. You look around, you could, I'm sure, call out sexism or racism every single day in these positions. So I think it's really important to not only know how to fight, but when to fight and when to stick your nose down to the grindstone and get back to work for people.
Yeah, I mean, that's good measure for so many people. As we wrap up, Senator and Senator-to-be again on a national and federal level, how can we be a resource? How can our show, my show, Choose Views, how can WCPT as a progressive talk station be a resource to you in the work that you're going to be taking on as you go forward?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm grateful for you for having me on, for all of your listeners. We love our neighbors in Chicago over here in Michigan. Stay in touch with us. I mean, Michigan is one of the biggest battleground states in the entire country. This Senate race is very likely going to be one of the most expensive, one of the most watched races in the nation. So even though we're in a different state, I would ask listeners to check in with us. We're at McMorrowforMichigan.com. You can follow me on social media. Come on out if you want. Knock some doors with us. Come have a beer, chip in a few dollars if you're able to. This is going to be, I think, a race that is going to help us write a new blueprint for not only the state of Michigan, but for our party on how we get out of the wilderness and get through this moment.
Absolutely. And our listeners here in Chicago, but throughout the rest of the country, are very proud of you. They love your fight. And, there's seminal moments, and there may be more than one in a person's life, but you've had a couple, and you literally stepped to the mic and stepped to the moment. And we're proud of that, which you've done, and excited about what your future is going to be. We look forward to being a part of that. Thanks, Senator Mallory McMorrow, for being with us this morning on Choose Views. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Have a great day and have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye now. Well, there you go, guys. One of those new voices. And I promised you guys a while back that we were going to work our darndest to get some of the new voices on the show and to talk with them about how they see our future and what we have to do as progressive liberal Democrats. And there's a change that's coming. It has to come. I think it's happening now in some ways, in some corners. And a lot of people are asking for that asking for that kind of energy. Maybe I'm wrong. And let me just say this. For the Republicans, the GOPers, the maggots that are out there, the MAGA followers, get ready, because it's that right there that you're afraid of. I'll be honest. This is, I'm going to poke the bear a little bit. You probably weren't as afraid of a Dick Durbin. No offense to Dick Durbin. And you probably weren't as afraid of, the list goes on, of I'm just staying in Illinois, of certain Democrats. You probably weren't. I get that. But y'all going to be afraid of her. And that's why you're trash talking and saying, why don't you just work with the Republicans and do it? No, because the Republicans are hurting the country. The Democrats have been hurting themselves. Okay, we can say that as a critique about how we go forward. But the Republicans are hurting the country. They're telling lies. They're stealing. They're allowing Donald Trump to steal. I mean, how stupid do you have to be, or feckless, or both, to not challenge a guy and say, no, you don't need that plane. We need better policy. He doesn't understand policy. So we can't talk about Trump policy because they don't have any. Executive orders are not policy. So Republicans cannot stand the fact that kind of voice, that kind of energy, they're going to attack her personally. That's what's going to happen, Henry. They're going to attack her personally like we're doing with the ALC. It's a Republican playbook. And and I'll be honest with you, it's mostly the narrow-minded, sexist, racist, nationalistic white men in the Republican Party that can't handle what the Mallory McMorrows and the AOCs and the list goes on, and we're running out of time, so I can't get to all of them, are going to bring to you. You can't handle that. To steal the infamous line, you can't handle the truth. And these young women, these young ladies, these young Democrats, male and female, so let me be right here, are bringing that. You know, and they're all over. And that's what y'all are afraid of. So get ready, because we're going to keep highlighting their voices so that you feel threatened and that you're on your heels, because we are going to bring it. We have to. We have no choice but to do that. And I proudly am going to do my best to have those kinds of voices speaking to what we have to do as we go forward. Guys, it's been great being with you today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of our craziness here. I hope we brought you some great guests today. And as always, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Also, just so everyone knows, they can catch the rest of the interview that we played earlier on Omni and wherever you catch our podcasts.
Excuse me, miss. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you recommend a bank that offers a full suite of commercial banking products along with excellent service?
Yes, ABOC.
What about a bank that has been in Chicago for more than 100 years and really understands the local business climate?
ABOC.
But I manage a labor union. Can you recommend a bank that really understands how labor unions operate and what banking products they need?
Again, ABOC. ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922 and understands the local business climate better than anyone. ABOC was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders today, so they really understand how unions tick and how their needs may be different. But whether you're with a labor union or another type of business, whether you're large or small or something in between, ABOC will always make you feel like you're their most important customer. Visit ABOC.com to learn more.
Wow, thank you, random person on the street. I'm going to visit ABOC.com today.
Member FDIC.
Chicagoland, are you ready?